And I am so done with the stupid throw rope business. Most of the time, it's some kind of mess like this, trying to get the stupid rope up the tree. If I had something other than cottonwood trees, it probably wouldn't be such a big problem. This is a real mess here. I got the weight stuck. So it's rifle season today, but I'm gonna sit in the tree stand with a longbow this morning and just hope one walks by, and then we'll see what happens after a couple hours, whether or not I change my mind. There's not a lot of deer around again this year. I think it's time to put the bow in the truck and get out the rifle and go for a walk. I have a season choice permit, and it's rifle season, so I can hunt with the lesser weapon if I want. I'll try to show you. So, put that in my pocket, grab the rifle, and we'll check some pockets on this place, and then we'll go to the other place. See what happens. Well, that didn't work either. There's just not a lot of deer around. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The properties that I have are not very big. Deer don't really live on me. They just pass through from time to time, and sometimes I'm in the right place, and sometimes I'm not. Hopefully, we'll be fortunate enough to secure permission to hunt on one of these farms around where the deer concentrate on alfalfa in the winter. Those of you who've been subscribed to my channel for a while, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch these videos that I put up. That really makes me feel good. It makes me happy knowing that you guys enjoy watching the content that I put out. That's the only reason why I make these things anyway. But those of you that have watched my channel in the past will know that I'm not really a gear review guy.
so to speak. But I changed my saddle hunting setup in the middle of the season. I don't know if you could hear it in the video, but I was pretty fed up with the throw rope and pulling the rope up the tree thing. I still want that as an option, but I needed something else as a secondary or primary, and then the throw rope could be secondary. It's just that the trees that we have, the cottonwood trees, even some of the others like box elders and ashes, their bark is so deeply ridged and rough that it catches the rope or it catches the weight. So I purchased an actual saddle instead of doing the whole rock climbing harness and butt hammock thing. And I purchased a climbing stick, so I'm one sticking now. So anyway, I want to go over the saddle that I purchased and talk to you about it a little. I haven't seen any reviews out there. I'm sure there are. Here is the saddle that I purchased. It was an Amazon, eBay type special. And I'll put up a picture up of one that is incredibly similar to the one that I purchased. So here's the one that I got. If you'll notice, mine says Nature Blend, and the one in the photograph said ullhunt, but it looks identical. The key feature being these small equipment loops have this extra bit of webbing protection on the webbing. And I say equipment loops here for a reason, and let me get into that. So the main loops for the bridge are a much larger, wider, they're a larger and wider webbing material or seatbelt material. It's at least 2 layers. How am I going to get this? So if you'll notice, there it is. So it's at least 2 layers of webbing, one on the outside, one on the inside, and then the belt webbing or seatbelt material is in between the two, so the belt does move inside that sleeve. But the sleeve is sewn over top of the material that makes up the saddle, and this top gear loop is stitched to the outside webbing material. So there's some bar tacking and an X pattern on this top gear loop, as well as this bottom loop. And here's the inside of the bottom. So the bottom, where your legs go, is all stitched together. One layer of seatbelt webbing, a layer of material, and then a double layer of the smaller webbing that holds this gear loop. So it seems reasonably secure. It's not a rock climbing harness, and I've never had an actual saddle before, so I don't know if that's similar, but it seems like the way it should be. And then I ordered these, keep going the wrong way, and I ordered these pouches separately. Let me set that aside for a second. So you'll notice in the video that initially I had my bridge hooked up to a Klemheist using an auto block sling, which is just a sewn sling. And then when I needed to get around that crotch to be secured, I used just a backup tether to do that. Once I got secured around the tree, I went back to my bridge and my climbing rope and since I had to transition, I chose that opportunity to put my gree on my bridge just for rappelling. So that was a lot of fumbling around with only having the one attachment point. And I decided I didn't like that very much and that I wanted to add a second bridge. So I was just going to add it to the bridge loops that are on here, but it seemed better to make a redundant bridge. If you're going to rely upon a second bridge, you might as well use it in a manner that there's a second attachment point. Kind of similar to how you would tie in to the hard points on your harness and then carabiner to your belay loop. So what I ended up doing was, because of the nature of the stitching on this top and bottom gear loop, it looked really solid. I mean, it's literally holding down the belay loop anyway. So I took some 6mm accessory line, which came with my climbing rope. I'll show you that in a minute. And I cut the little attachment off and tied my own double fisherman's knot, which allowed me to girth hitch around the other side. So I made another bridge loop. Same thing on the other side. Top accessory loop that looks really well constructed. Bottom accessory loop looks really well constructed. 6mm accessory line doubled over, double fisherman's knot, girth hitched. Now I have two bridge loops. So what I then decided was, because I'm a reasonably small guy, I only have a 31 inch waist. These loops were coming all the way to my center, and I was getting a lot of hip pinch. So because these loops are so large, I decided that this was going to be my belay loop, and that this cobbled together piece was going to be my bridge loop. Just a couple other things to mention about this harness that may or may not be good. I don't know. This is my first one. I called it a harness. It's a saddle. So this stuff appears, the bridge that it came with appears to be that ultra high molecular weight polyethylene rope. It advertised itself as such, and I tried to melt the ends with just a lighter, and they wouldn't melt. They would fray and puff, but they wouldn't actually melt and drip just from the heat of a lighter. So I think it is what it says it is. There is an eye here on this end, and they just spliced. It's a spliced eye. It felt really secure when I pulled on it, but just for my own peace of mind, I lashed the eye down with some nylon cord, line, not cord. The prusik loop that came with the harness was also spliced on each end, so it was really, really fat in the middle, and I couldn't get it to tighten down on the bridge. So I tore it apart. I tied a double fisherman's knot, made a proper prusik loop there. I swapped the carabiner out because I really liked the one that came with this. I ran a Google search on the certification numbers on that carabiner, and it seems to be legit. So what do I have in these pouches that I bought? These were very cheap. They're just dump pouches for magazines. So I have a 30-foot Muddy brand safety line here. This was the only one available to me in the town that I live in at the store. Initially, I tied a scaffold knot onto this heavy-duty quick link. I didn't like the way the scaffold knot sat against the tree. It made the quick link sit sideways instead of flat to the tree. So I untied the scaffold knot, and now I have a double bow line with the Yosemite finish. I think I'm naming that correctly, where the tail end of the bow line comes back towards the running line, and double bow line because there's two tension loops there. So I think that's the appropriate way to say that. This is a 6.8 millimeter hollow block for a prusik loop. I have a Clem Heist on here right now because the material that this is made out of and the material that this is made out of, prusik, was being a huge nightmare. It was very grabby. This muddy safety line is 3/8 diameter rope, so 9.5 millimeters, something like that. So the 6.8 hollow block was a much better idea than an 8 millimeter hollow or sling. This is the carabiner that came with the harness. I really like this thing, it's very nice. The other pouch has pretty much everything else. A short, I think that's a 10-inch sling, aluminum screw gate carabiner, and my gree-gree. This whole unit, I now put the sling through one side, belay loop, through the other side, over the top of the whole thing, and then I pull the gree-gree off and attach it to my rope. So it looks like this. I don't like having both ends of the loop inside the carabiner. I'm sure I'm never going to generate enough force to have to worry about, you know, axially loading this carabiner. But that's, everybody's fast. So there's less slack with this setup than there was coming off of my bridge as I'm going up the tree and having to reset the girth hitch all the time. It's easier for me to manage the slack like this. And I can leave this on as a redundancy to that prusik. And that is my setup. It seems like it's working reasonably well. I think this thing is made out of quality materials. There is one thing I would like to mention, and somebody mentioned it in one of the online reviews. This stitching on the middle one of these loops, it is bar tacked and it has these X stitches, but it's just sewn to the material. That's it. There's nothing on the back side of this. There's no extra webbing anywhere for it to be attached to. You're relying solely on whatever that stuff is made out of. And just proof of concept here, if I pull on that loop, you can see the stitches right there. It wants to tear on this fuzzy stuff just from the weight of my finger pulling on it. I was able to lift the stitches. So I'm cutting this thing off so I don't accidentally hook onto that in some way. Otherwise, I haven't had any problems with it so far. Yeah, so if you're in the market for a saddle, but you don't want to spend a fortune on something that you only do a couple times a year, I hesitate to say something like, I completely 100 recommend this product, because you're trusting your life to this thing. So, I don't know. Use your best judgment. Be cautious. Inspect the thing when you get it. Make sure your stitches are as good as the ones that I have, or at least they seem good. I mean, one of the core principles to the whole system is to eliminate as much slack as possible on the way up and the way down. That way, if you do slip, you're not falling far. We don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're falling half a body length and shock loading the whole system. So yeah, if you want to try something like that out, it seems okay. Just use your best judgment, be cautious, and thanks for listening to me ramble. We'll see you next time.